Really? What part? Oh, that's where I am. I'm like, well, I don't know if you know the streets, but I'm off of the Morgan L and the Central L. Yeah.
And we're just waiting on one more. Should be here in just a minute or two, and then we'll get started.
Oh. Okay, I'm on Central and Troutman.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I think that's pretty close. Yeah. Okay.
How do you feel about that?
It's nice there though. I like it a lot. And when we got here, I was like, the grass smells amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Padilla.
All
It's
right.
different.
Here we go.
Ooh, cool. Huh.
Sorry. Thank you. There he is.
Hello. Good to see you.
Okay, are we ready?
I think so.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming out today to hear about such an important issue. I'd like to thank all those here for joining us, including Senator Padilla, Senator Durbin, and Congressman Bera, and of course, our documented dreamers. I'd also like to give them a huge welcome because they have come to Washington to advocate for themselves and for their families. They are Americans in every respect except on paper. And there's nothing more American than petitioning your elected representatives to right a terrible wrong. These inspiring young people love America and believe in the power of American democracy. They worked closely with the leaders here today to craft legislation to fix one of many of the deep flaws embedded in our broken immigration system. Documented dreamers grow up in our communities, attend our schools, and learn alongside our children. They love our country and want to give back to the people and places that raised them. But at 21, they age out of their visas, usually because of decades-long backlogs, and face an impossible choice. Stay in the United States without legal status, or leave family, friends, and jobs to return to countries they barely remember. The young advocates who are with us today represent more than 200,000 documented dreamers across the country who are living in limbo. They're struggling to find a pathway to permanent residency and wondering whether they'll eventually be deported. In a few moments, we'll hear directly from several of the documented dreamers with us today about how our outdated immigration system has impacted their lives. But before we hear from them, I want to highlight bipartisan legislation that the group of lawmakers here today has championed. Now, we know that the House has already passed a larger package to protect all dreamers, the American Dream and Promise Act, and we're looking forward to the Senate passing that bill. But we've also made sure that we recognize the documented dreamers who have largely been ignored in our immigration debates for years, and they can't afford to wait. That's why we introduced the American Children's Act, which will permanently end aging out and provide a pathway to permanent residency for the 200,000 documented dreamers in the United States. For too long, these young people have been left out of discussions about immigration reform in Congress. But today, I'm proud to stand with this remarkable group. They've worked so hard to draw attention to their challenging circumstances and to advocate for a common sense solution. It's been a privilege to work with them and with my colleagues in the House and Senate to design bipartisan, bicameral legislation that will have a positive impact on so many promising young lives. Documented dreamers represent the very best of America. Let's give them a chance to stay in the country they love and call home. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague and friend, the Senate sponsor of the American Children's Act, Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Representative Ross. Thank you all for being here. As a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, chaired by my colleague Senator Durbin, and as chair of the Senate Subcommittee on Immigration, Citizenship, and Border Security, and as a proud son of immigrants, I'm honored to be here today with the many brave members of Improve the Dream. The United States was founded as a nation of immigrants, and we all recognize that our diversity is a tremendous strength, but our broken immigration system is failing to meet America's needs in the 21st century. And one major failure of the broken immigration system is a lack of protection for documented dreamers. As you've heard, the children of long-term visa holders. Now, these children have parents who have filed for lawful permanent status, have been approved. But while they're in the U.S. with legal status, their parents' green card applications are stuck in backlogs that are sometimes more than 50 years long. If a documented dreamer turns 21 before his or her parent gets to the front of the line, the documented dreamer loses their legal status. And right now there's 250,000 children who are at risk of aging out from the protections of their parents' status. So let's be blunt, let's be very, very clear as to what this means. For these young people, turning 21 means facing an impossible choice. Either to leave your family and self-deport to a country that you may barely remember, or to stay in the United States, living undocumented and in the shadows. Now, last month we had a hearing in the subcommittee that I chaired on the barriers to legal migration, and we were focusing specifically on this challenge of documented dreamers. And during that hearing, among other witnesses, we heard testimony from a young lady, Atulia Rajakumar. She's also an inspiring journalist and a documented dreamer. She shared the story of her family struggle through the years of being in immigration limbo, which, by the way, happened to contribute to her brother's tragic death. Her story was heartbreaking, and it's an outrage, not just to me, it should be an outrage to all of us. In order to fix the system for Otulia and for thousands of others like her, we introduced and we need to pass the American Children's Act. Now, this bill would prevent the children that we've described from aging out of the protections of their parents by creating additional green card opportunities. As a result of the subcommittee hearing, if you haven't heard this already, there is hope. During the hearing, Senator Durbin was present when we heard Senator Cornyn, the ranking member of the committee, Republican from Texas, agreed to try to advance bipartisan legislation in the Judiciary Committee to address this specific issue. And in the process, we have renewed bipartisan negotiations on immigration. So I'm heartened that we're back at the table. Okay, everybody knows the story of our efforts to advance comprehensive immigration reform last year. Everybody's familiar with the attempts at utilizing the budget reconciliation process unsuccessfully. Many of us have appealed to President Biden to continue to exercise executive authority, but this at least is hope that we can move forward legislatively. And as hard as it may be, I'm not giving up. None of us are giving up. We cannot give up. We will not give up because documented dreamers and millions of other immigrants deserve better. We have an opportunity to advance its common sense and bipartisan measure to improve the American dream. And so this morning, I also want to thank all the young people who are here to share their stories and talk about how their immigration status has impacted their life. As a reminder to all of us that Congress must act, we must fix this broken immigration system, and we must live up to the values of our nation. And with that, I'd love to introduce my colleague, my friend, the Senator of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and a champion for Dreamers, Senator Dick Durbin.
Thanks. Look at the group of young people behind me. Imagine what their lives have been like living in the United States, studying, getting the grades, applying for college, really pursuing their own individual dreams. They're extraordinary. They're talented. They're up against obstacles which many Americans, young people, don't face. They want to go to college, they're not going to get federal student loans. They don't qualify for it because they are in an undocumented status. Do they want to be part of America's future? They do. Do we need them? Of course we do. Think about how many times we've been told we don't have the workforce we need. We're desperate to find people to fill the jobs. These are young people educated in the United States, grew up in this country believing it was their home, and are really looking forward to a future in this country. But our system of immigration is built on a premise that they are undocumented and undeserving of citizenship status. We want to change it with this bill. We want to basically say to them and so many more like them, we want you to be part of America's future. Don't go back to wherever your parents came from unless that's your personal choice. If your choice is to be part of the future of America, we welcome you. We need you. We want you to be part of our future. I want to add something that's a very important distinction here. I want to help the documented dreamers who are here today. Their parents came to the United States on legal visas, but they are caught in the trap where their parents are waiting for green cards year after year after year. They may reach that age of 21 where they technically can't stay here because of their parents. Technically they can't. I want to make sure that's taken care of. They are dreamers, just like so many others. But the DREAM Act originally didn't cover them. The DREAM Act dealt with parents who came to the United States without legal status. Once again, the children of those parents had no choice in the matter. The parents made the decision. We're trying to make sure that both undocumented and documented dreamers have their chance to be part of the future of America. Their parents made decisions, some legal, some not legal. Why are the kids paying the price for that? We want to give them all the chance that they need. I want to just close by saying I'm lucky to be standing here. My mother was an immigrant to this country. Her son got a full-time government job working in the United States Senate, representing a great state of Illinois. My mom lived long enough to see me sworn into that position. I'm sure there are many parents of the young people standing behind me who envision these young people having the same similar opportunity, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector. The basic question is this: in this nation of immigrants, are we going to forswear our legacy, our heritage? Are we going to stand up for immigration and diversity as part of the strength of this country? Do we want the determination of these young people to be part of our future? For me, the answer very clearly is. I hope it is for you too. Representative Bera is here to say a few words. From Sacramento?
From Sacramento.
Take it away.
Well, I'm not going to repeat everything that my colleagues have said because I agree with everything that they've said. Senator Durbin said it very well. We're a nation of immigrants, one generation after another, bringing with us our heritage, our culture, our religions, our traditions, all woven together. That's America's strength, and that's what this is about. Both documented dreamers, but also all dreamers. And we've passed legislation, we want to get that passed. But on the America's Children's Act, we have bipartisan support. We have Republicans that understand it and get it, that we've got to fix this flaw in our immigration system. These young Americans, and I'm going to use that term because I consider all of you young Americans, didn't break any law. They came here as young children with their parents who came here legally on H-1B visas and other visas to contribute to that American dream, to the fabric of our country. They haven't done anything wrong. They only know one country. That's the United States of America. And for us to have an immigration system that says when you turn 21, you have no legal status, you now have to self-deport to a country that you may have no recollection of. You may have been there as a young child, but you may have not gone there. You may not have any family. We ought to welcome these kids to be part of that next generation to continue to move our country forward. We ought to welcome all dreamers, in fact, because for those that are documented and undocumented, this is the country that they know. This is the country that they want to contribute to. Serve in the military, create that next startup company, or just go in and teach that next generation of kids. So let's get this passed. We can do this. And again, thank you to my colleagues. Thank you to Congresswoman Ross as a freshman who's really taken on this issue and has been a champion on our side. And Senator Durbin, my home state Senator Padilla, thank you for your leadership here.
Well, thank you, Representative Bera, who has been a mentor to me in getting things done on the House side. Now it's my honor to introduce someone who has been advocating on behalf of himself and the entire documented dreamer community for years. His tireless and inspiring efforts on behalf of these young people make me want to work even harder to find legislative solutions. So now I'll turn it over to the founder of Improve the Dream, Deep Patel.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Ross, and thank you to all the members that are here today. My name is Deep Patel, and I'm really delighted to be speaking on behalf of Improve the Dream. 17 years ago, my parents immigrated to Southern Illinois to start a small business in the hopes of giving us the best opportunity to fulfill our dreams. Over the years, we made America our home. This country helped raise me, educate me, but I still lack the certainty to be able to permanently stay here. And this is the story that resonates with over 200,000 documented dreamers in this country. While growing up, we're often asked, why can't you just apply for citizenship? Hearing this question repeatedly made me realize that most Americans don't know that it's possible for an immigrant child to be brought here with a documented status, raised and educated here, but still not have a clear path to citizenship. We grow up feeling Americans and have the same experiences as our peers, but when we turn 21, we face the risk of self-deportation. And there's no mechanism in place in our system to protect children in our situations. And once we age out, the decades we have spent growing up in the United States are rendered useless by the immigration system. For too long, these obstacles have not only torn families apart and caused immense emotional turmoil, but it also causes great economic harm to the United States. Improve the Dream was started with a vision to that all children who grow up in the United States would have a clear path to citizenship, and passing America's Children Act will end aging out and bring our vision to life and recognize that we are Americans. Thank you, Congresswoman Deborah Ross, for championing this cause for us, and Senator Padilla for leading it in the Senate. You have all given us a beacon of hope for achieving the American dream that we aim for. And your dedicated support is the reason why we have hope of now being recognized as something we have long felt, being Americans. We are incredibly grateful for all members here and also their teams who have worked tirelessly to make this a possibility. Our movement would not be possible without the thousands of documented dreamers, including many of those who are standing behind me today, who have raised their voices and whose inspiring stories led to the introduction of America's Children Act. 2 months ago, we heard a very compelling story at the Senate Judiciary Committee from a member of Improve the Dream, which shows why there's a massive urgency for this fix. And for Athulia and for the 10,000 others who face self-deportation this year, we need to pass America's Children Act now, and I hope we can improve the dream for all of us this year. Thank you so much, and now I'll pass it off to Iti Sinha, who is a documented dreamer from California.
Hi everyone, my name is Iti Sinha and I'm a documented dreamer. In the middle of first grade, my family brought my twin sister and I to San Francisco as dependents. I grew up American in every way. I learned how to ride my bike in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. I would recite the Pledge of Allegiance on the blacktop right before roll call in elementary school. I know how to set up a tent and grill s'mores, and I do so every summer for our family's annual 4th of July camping trip. But as I came of age, I was thrust into a sea of uncertainty. Because of the green card backlog, my family is self-right. My twin sister and I had little rights growing up. We weren't able to accept scholarships or jobs we were offered. We didn't qualify for protections or work authorization under DACA because of our dependent status. And when we aged out at age 21, we have to now carry the burden of being international students in the only country we call home. And to make matters worse, my family is separated. For over 2 years, my father hasn't been able to get a stamp for his work visa. This is a work visa that the government approved and renewed for over 10 years, and his green card application has now stalled. If there's no change in the immigration system, things will only get worse. My sister is about to enter the back of the 150-year-long employment-based green card line. My mom's green card application is still in the background. Ironically, my dad is currently in Vancouver and will become a Canadian resident in a matter of months. As for me, I'm a PhD student at Cornell University studying biomedical engineering. I want to be in New York, focusing on cancer treatments and diagnostics. But I'm here today because I'm scared. I'm scared that when I graduate from my PhD, that I will have to self-deport to India. Without legislation like the American Children Act, that is what will happen. But our home is the United States, and we want to be home together. And I urge Congress to pass the American Children Act and bring a beacon of stability to my family and others in my life. Thank you so much. Sorry, speaking next will be Millie for another documentary.
Hello, my name is Millie Herrera and I'm 17 years old and I am a junior in high school from Houston, Texas. My parents brought me and my brother from Mexico at the age of 5 due to the violence and the crime that was imposed in our area. They sacrificed their life for us to have a better one, and they took all of that they had for an opportunity to start a small business in Texas on an E2 visa. They have operated and ran that small business since. I have done all of my schooling and my education in Texas, and after all this time, I really do consider myself a true Texan. For me, aging out of the system at 21 means disrupting my path in higher education. It makes applying to college a lot more complicated. And it makes my future a moving target since I do not have a guaranteed path to citizenship after I age out of the system. It brings a lot of uncertainty to my life, as well as my brother, who is a lot closer to aging out of the system, and will be forced to age out to self-deport in less than a year. I am hopeful that change will be made, and I can continue staying in the only place I know is home. Thank you for listening, and next I will pass it off to Deborah Ross, a constituent and representative of Bera.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fedora Castellino, and I am 18 years old. I reside in Apex, North Carolina, and I was brought to America when I was just 7 years old. Growing up in the Catholic Church, I quickly realized how many blessings I was granted by God to even be in this country. I was faced with many opportunities and a beautiful education I could have never even imagined. At the time, my deacon at church was one of the New York State district judges, and he took me on a trip to visit one of the district courts. It was at that time I felt a tug at my heart that was indescribable. This is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I wanted to be in America and serve in America, give back to the country that had given me so much. Growing up in high school and college, I realized that I wanted to serve in the American Armed Services, and more specifically in the Corps of Engineers. Serving in the Army was a lifelong dream of mine, especially after my father had served in the Air Force in India for a short period of time. However, I am unable to do so. I am unable to give back to the only country I have called home. With your help, I will be able to serve in the American government. I was recently asked, when do I feel most American? It's right here, right now, in front of all of you, making a change every step of the way, in one nation under God. God bless.
Sorry, I got a little teary there. So thank you for sharing your stories with us. And now I'd like to open up the floor to any questions. I know several people went and saw the senators as they were leaving, but Representative Bera and I are here to answer questions, and of course the Dreamers as well. So does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Does the bill apply to anyone who's already self-reported?
I don't know about that. That is a really, really good question. Do you know?
I don't, but
Oh yeah, Deep knows. Deep should be in Congress.
So America's Children Act, as currently drafted, it does have already have resided here for at least 10 years and have graduated from so they would be able to come back and
Thank you. Great question. Yes.
With everything going on in Congress right now, with bipartisan support, do you feel like we can move this legislation in a timely fashion, considering how long we've been trying to reform immigration in this country?
Well, I think that is really a question for the Senate. So as I said during my initial remarks, the House has passed the American Dream and Promise Act that helps all dreamers, whether they came here in a documented way or not, and also helps people with temporary protected status. And now we have more Ukrainians with temporary protected status, more Afghanis with temporary protected status, and of course Haitians. And so the House did its business. It's just people forgot about it because it's been sitting on the Senate side. So I'm hopeful, but I'll turn it over to Representative Bera.
So I think there is that possibility. Obviously, having Senator Durbin be a champion of the American Children's Act, along with Senator Cornyn, saying positive things about it. While we'd love to do broad immigration reform, we'd love to pass the Dream and Promise Act, I think the American Children's Act is one that we could pass. And the work that all of these young people and their counterparts are doing, going to senators' offices, telling them that they're their constituents, I think is going to pay off. So I'm optimistic.
So obviously, when it comes to passing anything in the Senate, you need bipartisan support, but you need to overcome that filibuster. So do you think that there are enough Republicans who will support this legislation to move it forward and actually move the debate on it?
Again, I think if you have Senator Cornyn on board, a senior senator in their leadership, who's willing to go to other Republican senators, they all have documented dreamers in their district, so they're all going to visit their senators and telling them that, hey, we're your constituents, and telling them their stories. This is a niche area where I think everyone's going to agree that we got to fix this.
Yes, and please remember Senator Paul is a co-sponsor of the Senate bill. He did not come to the press conference. And Senator Collins, and do you know, can you share about some of your visits?
Senator Ernst is also a co-sponsor, and Senator Murkowski. So there's 4 Republican co-sponsors in the Senate. And I think given, as Representative Bera said, given what Senator Cornyn said at the subcommittee hearing a couple months ago, we think there are 60 votes to pass America.
And we're putting some pressure on Senator Tillis from North Carolina.
So Senator Durbin just told us that this bill would not move in the Senate on a standalone basis. It would move as part of a package. So the question then becomes, what border security measures are you willing to accept in order to get that package through?
So I think that's more conversation within the Senate. I think we're all okay having increased border security, protecting the borders. Obviously, working with to make sure that proper staffing and so forth. But I think that's a negotiation that we ought to have.
Yeah, and I will just say that the House Democratic Caucus has had a lot of conversations about how we can work together on immigration issues. And Senator Padilla. Anything else? Anything for our dreamers?
There's 10 House Republicans.
Is there anyone here from Georgia's 14th district?
Georgia's 14th? Yeah. I'm from Georgia, but not.
Okay.
Well, that's all the time we have, and I want to thank you all for being here and for our speakers and these brave young people who are helping to fight for themselves and their families. And please feel free to follow up with my office, with Representative Bera's office, and of course with the senators' offices about moving this forward. As Senator Padilla said, we will not stop. So thank you so much. And thank you. Thank you.